Good afternoon, everyone. I'm really delightful to be here with you today. I'll be talking about the Chrome DevTools, and I'll give you some tips that hopefully will help to increase your developer productivity. And ultimately, I hope to get you excited enough to learn even more about the Chrome DevTools. But before I start, I'm Lora. You can find me on Twitter under Lora Vardarova, which is my name. I'll be happy to hear your feedback on the talk. I'm a software engineer. Currently, I work at Zalando, the e-commerce fashion platform. I'm really proud that I managed to convince them to become one of the diversity sponsors at the conference. At Zalando, I've worked on migrating legacy applications to React and Node.js. I've worked on B2B applications built with AngularJS, and I've also built some prototypes with Vue.js. So it's been a really interesting journey so far with a lot of learnings. I'm quite interested and passionate about agile software development and software craftsmanship. That's why I created the awesome agile software development list, where I share resources on this topic so others interested could learn as well. And as we learned, I'm a digital nomad. I travel a lot. I work in different countries, and every time I move countries, I have to research a new market, find out what the market rates for my skills are, and it can be really difficult to get accurate information. And in order to help developers better negotiate their salaries, I started this open developer salaries Google spreadsheet, where developers can anonymously share their salaries and what their skills are. We also have a spreadsheet for United Kingdom, so you're also more than welcome to contribute. Okay, content warnings. In the program, it says that there are animations and videos, and this is not exactly true. So most of this talk will be live video, just live demo. So if moving objects makes you feel uncomfortable, you'll see this content warning under the heading of each section. Okay, back to Chrome DevTools. So it's been more than 6 years since I transitioned into tech. And I've worked with many different tech stacks, and all the time I've been using the Chrome DevTools. But recently I noticed that I really tend to use the same features over and over again, and I didn't use any of the new features. And from my colleagues and by pair programming, for example, I noticed that they use some features that I had no idea about. And then I started digging deeper and to find what features can help my work. And I noticed that a lot of my work colleagues and people I talked to, they didn't know really about these features, which encouraged me to even go deeper and deeper. And today I would like to present to you some of these tips and tricks that hopefully will also help increase your productivity as well. Okay, in order to do this, I will use the website of ScotlandJS because I loved so much the conference yesterday. So in order to open the Chrome DevTools, you can use the keyboard shortcut Option, Command, and J on Mac. Or what you can do is also just right-click and select Inspect. Okay, let's get rid of these errors. It's like it never happened. Okay, and once you open the DevTools, you will see there are like so many panels, different options. It really can be quite overwhelming. So one thing that I can really recommend for you is to use this keyboard shortcut, Command-Shift-P on Mac or Control-Shift-P on Windows, and it's really worth noting this down. So what it does is, okay, I go Command-Shift-P, and it opens this context search menu where you can see a lot of the features of Google Chrome DevTools. So even if you know about a feature, sometimes it might be difficult to locate it. So it's a quick way to find it because I can also start typing, and then it will show me what options I have. And it's also a handy way to just see what features there are. Like you can go down and see, okay, show changes, what does it do? I have no idea, and then you can explore further. So it's really super useful keyboard shortcuts. It's literally changed my life since I found out about it, so I really recommend you to use it. Okay, now that we've established this, I want to talk about a feature that I use all the time, screenshots. You can take screenshots with the help of DevTools. In the past, this feature was only available in the Canary version, and I used to use it, but I stopped because it was crashing too much. I work on really heavy applications, and it was not really helping me much, so I stopped using it. But now, nowadays, you can also find screenshots in the stable release. So if I just, go Command-Shift-P, and Shift-P and type screenshots, you can see that you can capture the full-size screenshot. That's a screenshot of the whole page. Just capture a node screenshot of a single DOM node, or capture a screenshot of the viewport. I use all these options quite often because I have to share my work with a lot of the UX designers I work with product managers for approvals. So it's really super handy. And one thing that's actually missing here, and you cannot find, unfortunately, in this menu, is something that you can find if you go to the network menu. And there, in the upper left corner, you can see this capture screenshot icon. Once it's enabled and you just refresh the page and load the page, what it does, it takes screenshot of the page while it's loading. So it's super handy for in a couple of different scenarios. For example, you're optimizing your website or application, and you want to see what is being loaded first. So it's really helpful to see what your users will see as the page is loading. But I had a different use case recently. We had a bug where an element was just showing for a split second while the web page was loading, and we had no idea what it is, and even the person who reported it could not attach a screenshot because it was just appearing for a split second, and then once the web page was loaded, it's completely disappeared. So this was a really great way to find out what it was, because we could just capture these screenshots while the web page was loading and then see what it is and fix the bug. So really super helpful screenshots. Yep. Next, I would like to show you some tips and tricks about HTML and CSS. Yes, it's ScotlandJS, but CSS is super important. And since yesterday we also talked about a little bit of JavaScript, so I thought it would be great to talk about CSS today. Great. First, one really great feature that some people don't know about is that, yes, you can edit the HTML in the element panel, but you can also just drag and drop elements. And let's say I go to the speakers to see who the speakers at Scotland CSS are going to be. And I look at the speakers and I see Sarah there. She's like really awesome. She's my speaker buddy, and I really think that she should be the first speaker on the list. Definitely. So what I can do here, just drag and drop to the top, and then perfect. Then I go. Then I take a screenshot because I want to send it to Peter to show him how much better it will be if she was first. Awesome. Then a couple of tricks about CSS. Okay, so we have the styles panel, and I don't really like working with the styles panel. I find it a bit overwhelming because there's so many different declarations, some are overridden, and it's really could be difficult to find out what is what. What I prefer using is the computed styles, which are usually on the right, where I can see a box model of the element in question. I can see width, height, padding, border, margins. If I wanted, I could even like double click and just change the values directly here. And I really like that I have all the computed properties below. So great. I can see everything in there. Okay, color. Then if I mouse over, I get this handy arrow. If I click on it, I will go directly to the styles panel where I can see where the color is defined. And what I really like in Chrome is something that was also not available in the past, is once you click on this, what is it, square, the square with color, a color picker gets open, which is really handy, not only if you want to see what the color of the border is in this case, but if you want to get the color code of any element on the page, and in the past you had to install an extension for Chrome, it's not necessary anymore. And what's really cool here is you have this contrast ratio, which we see if we click here and show more, we can see that it passes the ratings for accessible contrast ratio. And what is really cool, here in the color palette, you see this white line. So all the values in this case, which are above, are accessible. And if I change the color to something below this line, it won't be accessible. So it's a great way to check for contrast ratio. And from here, I can also go open the CSS file in the sources panel and even edit stuff there. But we go there, and then suddenly, you see, okay, it's really difficult to read. Yeah, it's impossible to edit, but I have this curly braces in the lower left corner. If I click it, I can format the code, and it becomes really human readable. It works for CSS, it works for JavaScript as well, and I think it also works for JSON, which is great. And finally, I would like to show you one more trick related. It's both CSS and JavaScript. So if I search for coverage, okay, now I can start it, and then it shows me the unused bytes of all JavaScript and CSS files on the page. So if I open the same CSS files that we looked at earlier, now it will show me with red all the lines that are not being used, and with green everything that's actually used by the website. And it's really, really handy for optimizing, because very often we use some boilerplates which have a lot of code that we actually don't need. So it's a very good and visual way to see what is used and unused. Audits. Also a great feature. I already ran an audit, as it takes a bit of time, like a couple of minutes, and we don't have that much time. I ran an accessibility audit for the Scotland CSS page. As you can see, the ratings can be better, but what I actually want to show you is that by running this audit, you can learn a lot, because it runs an audit against a checklist, and it checks for each of these points how your web page performs, and then you get a report at the end. And it's very handy because you can learn really a lot. Like, for example, it says links do not have discernible names. I really have no idea what it is, but I can open this and see that, okay, there is some information, and I can even click on learn more, and then I'll be redirected to a great resource where I can learn more about this topic. And I wanted to show you something again about color contrast, for example, that I noticed. Okay, you see low contrast, and it's for this Twitter tags. So if we inspect this element and we go to computed, find it here, we can see, okay, the color contrast ratio is not really accessible. And let's say we just change it a little, make it a little bit lighter, and then everything is fine. And you can run different kind of audits. Let me just show you quickly. I think there are 5 main categories. So we have performance, progressive web apps, best practices, accessibility, and search engine optimization. I honestly remember in the past that there's like, I think, only performance, but it's like long time ago that I looked at the audits. So it's a really great place to learn about these topics. And for example, I'm going to start a new project next month, and it's going to be a progressive web app, and I really want to work on the accessibility. So this is something that I'll be using a lot to make sure that my application is accessible, and it's a great place to learn. And something really exciting that I want to show you is the local overrides. It's my really favorite. So a lot of people don't know about the local overrides, and also a lot of people don't understand how they can be useful. But you remember, we changed the color of the Twitter handles. So now imagine you're working on a web page, maybe fixing some bug and playing around with the page, and you're kind of happy with the result, but then someone comes to ask you a quick question, and suddenly, like, you don't remember what you were doing. You might have closed the tab or just refreshed the page, and then all your changes are gone. It's like, oh no, really frustrating. But it's great that we have local overrides, because, oh, I managed to open it. Okay. Open. And unfortunately, you cannot find them in this contest menu, which is a bummer. But if you go to the sources panel and you click here, oh, maybe not. Okay, click here, you have overrides. Close some of these tabs. Okay, what you need to do first is select a folder on your local machine for the overrides. It can be any folder on your local machine. It does not have to be folder in your project. So I have this overrides folder on my desktop here. I select it. Then you'll get this message. DevTools requests full access to this folder. Make sure that you do not expose any sensitive information. Great. Allow. Okay, we change the color. Okay, so now you see this purple dot there. It means that this file is linked to the file on my local machine. And now if I refresh the page, you'll see that my changes are preserved. And yeah, and what's even cooler is that if you go to the network panel now, you will see this icon, this warning icon there, which warns you that requests might be overwritten because local overrides are enabled. And it's really a cool feature. You can override everything, HTML, JavaScript, CSS. It's really great for making changes on websites in production. And it's great maybe if you're working with a client and then you don't want to set up the project on your local machine. You can very quickly show them some changes just on their production website by playing with the local overrides. And what's really cool is that you can even override images. So let's say I want to change this image because I really want to be Sarah. Oh. Oh. So what I need to do is I have to open this image in the source panel. I can right click on it in the elements panel and go reveal in source panel. And then I'll just find an image of me and drag and drop it there. Great. And now I can be Sarah. It's amazing. So local overrides, it's really, really great feature. I use it a lot and I recommend you to play around with it. Okay, and I think we don't have time for much more, so I just want to share with you some resources if you are interested to learn more. So what I usually use, I always have a look at the official documentation of the Chrome DevTools. They have a lot of nice tutorials. Every time something new comes up, there's a really great explanation. It's a great idea to follow the Chrome DevTools on Twitter because that's where they tweet about such updates and also about some nice tutorials that they publish. And last but not least is the awesome Chrome DevTools list on GitHub, which lists a lot of resources on this topic. And I just wanted to point to one resource that you can find there as well. Umar, who talked this morning about his Node.js project, he has this awesome newsletter on tips for Google Chrome DevTools. And if you subscribe to this newsletter, you will get one tip every week. And he's really great and is sharing a lot of useful tips there. So great resources indeed. And really, I would like to hear your feedback on this talk. I would like to know if you learned something new today and if it was useful for you. And what's even more interesting for me is to find out what features of DevTools you find useful for your work. And if you have found something new, please let me know. I would like to collect this. Thank you.